So here we go yet again. Our next project deals with creating a ball bounce. Okay. Now we can do this in two different ways. We can either have the ball bounce. Let's do something like this here. We can have the ball bounce kind of in an arc, like this, or we can just have the ball bounce kind of straight up and down. Boom, 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 like that. For the sake of this project here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you a little bit of both versions, okay? So first, the ball bouncing up and down, right? Well, depending on what the ball's made of, let's assume it's like a rubber ball, right? When it comes down, it's going to hit the ground and it's going to squash, right? All the pressure pushing down on it kind of flattens this normal round ball and makes it more of a pancake shape, right? We call that squash. And then immediately after squash, you get all the force from the pressure pushing up on that ball, and it ricochets and it stretches out. So we get squash and stretch, right? So these are two very important aspects of animation. So as the ball bounces, it goes down, squashes a little bit, stretches out, and then it repeats the process all over again. Okay? So first things first, let's go ahead and grab our cube that just happens to be there every time you load up Blender. I'm going to click the X key, and I can click delete, and now it's gone. I'm going to add a mesh, and I want to put in a UV sphere. A circle is just a flat disk. We don't want that. And an icosphere is kind of an angular cube, and we don't want that either. So we want a UV sphere. So there's our ball, right? Now we already know how to animate. We did that last time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my keyframing. Always make sure that little blue dot is highlighted right there. So this is going to be our first frame, frame number 1. I'm going to start off at the top of the arch, right about there maybe. Could be as tall as you want it to be. And then let's say by frame, I don't know, frame 20, it has come down and it hits the ground. And then by frame 40, it goes back up again. Now we want to make sure that frame 1 or frame 0, whatever you started on, is about, or as close to frame 40 as you can possibly get. So in my case here, I think I need to lower it just a hair, right about there. So we want to make sure they're very, very similar. Yeah, maybe a little bit more, because that way it will loop, right? Notice though, after frame 40, I've got all these other frames. Well, I don't need those anymore, right? Because we're just going to loop this animation. So let's go ahead and tell the computer that I don't need it to end on frame 250, way over here. I click that number, 250, and we're going to have it end on frame 40. So now, automatically, here's our animation. Going from frame 0 all the way down to frame 20, all the way back up to frame 40. And if I hit play, you'll see it just does that kind of forever. That's called a loop, right? Okay, now we got to add a little bit more oomph, right? We want to have this thing really smashing into the ground. So let's do that. So right here on frame 20, how do I smush it, right? I can't push it any lower into the ground. That doesn't work. So I'm going to grab my scale tool. I'm going to pull down just like that. And then I'm going to open it up by clicking on the white circle. So it kind of gets a little bit larger. So it's kind of flat and large. But notice that when I do that, it's now kind of hovering above the ground. So let's lower it just a little bit. Okay. Now, the computer knows that on frame 20, it gets flat like a pancake. But on frame 1, it's still a circle. So now it's going to go whoop, yep, whoop, yep. There's only one downfall with that, is that it's slowly turning into a pancake the entire time. I don't really want that. I only want it to turn into a pancake right around frame 18, right? So let's do this real quick. We want to retransform, or even we can undo. Let's go back. We're going to undo, just edit undo, that's all I'm doing, so that it no longer is a pancake, right? I'm going to go back to frame 18, or let's do frame 17. On frame 17, I want to set a keyframe to tell the computer that this is still a sphere. So I come over to my properties window over here on the right. I look here, I got location, rotation, and scale. Well, I know in frame 20 when I'm mushing it and squishing it, I'm changing the scale. So let's lock those keyframes in. So at frame 17, it will be a sphere. But by the time it's frame 20, we know it's going to be squished. So let's do it all over again here. A little bit bigger. Oops. Kind of like a pancake. And we'll push it down just a little bit so it hits the ground. Okay. So now let's check it out. It goes down, boing. Yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, now the next thing we can do, after it squishes, it needs to stretch. So what about like frame 25? What if on frame 25 it stretches out, right? Maybe gets a little bit skinnier, a little bit taller, like that, okay? And then it kind of morphs back into a circle, right? So it goes from a circle to a squashed pancake. Actually, let's make that a little more extreme, don't you think? Let's really squish it. The more extreme you go, the more elastic it's going to look. Here it goes. Boing. Boing. Look at that. Now that is a very fluid, very rubbery looking bouncy ball, right? And it will loop like this forever and ever and ever. And that's it. You've made a ball bounce. But we can do one extra thing. So sometimes we also want to ease in and ease out, make these things a little bit smoother, okay? So to do that, I can pull up my timeline bar here, and you could actually make a new window if you wanted to, but I'll pull up my timeline bar, and this little tiny clock right here is going to allow me to change what this window actually is, because it doesn't have to be a timeline. It can be anything, and in our case, we're going to switch to a graph editor. Whoa, okay, this looks way more intense than just a simple keyframe timeline bar. There's a lot of things going on here, but we can make this make a little bit more sense. So let's see. So we can change the movement, because the movement's on X, Y, and Z axes, right? It goes down, it goes over. We can do that. And you can see right here, this is our sphere, and these are all the movements of our sphere. And right here, this blue line is the movement of that sphere and how it bounces, right? How it goes from one frame, look here, frame 1, all the way down to frame 20. See, now it's down, right? It's going physically downwards, right? And then we come over here and it moves back up. It's almost like you're looking at it from a side profile, right? It goes down and up, and it goes down and up. But maybe I don't want it to be so smooth. Maybe I want it to be a little bit more jarring. So what if it comes down quickly? Look at that. More like a slope, really quick. And then maybe the bounce up is going to be a little bit more kind of up. So now it goes up and starts to fall back down just a little bit. It has a little bit of hang time right in there. I can stretch that hang time out if I want to, right? So let's see now. Ooh, much quicker bounce, hang time, and there we go. And then it would repeat, right? So there's that. Let's check out the actual squashing, right? The different actions that we have over here. So you can see in this drop-down menu, I have my X, Y, and Z location. That's the physical movement of it, right? I have the rotation, which there's no rotation. We haven't rotated at all. And I have the scale. Well, we know, check this out. There's frame 17. The scale says it's perfectly straight. And then in frame 20, that increases, right? Well, what if we do something? What if we kind of pull that up a little bit? We can really move and manipulate this. What if it stretches out? We want it to be a little bit more jarring. Something like that. Let's see what that does. Oh, a lot quicker and a lot snappier than before, right? So now it really hits hard and bounces up. So using this graph editor to do the ball bounce, right? You can use your tools. You can also just use the graph editor itself, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. The timeline still remains. Everything still works exactly the same. And when you hit play, it's going to look a little bit different. Now it has a little bit more fluidity to it, a little bit more bounce, right? There you go. So we've made a ball bounce. We have used our graph editor. Everything's looking good. If you want to experiment and take this in different directions, by all means. But that's it. That's this entire assignment done and in the bank. So you can go ahead and do File and Save As, and you can submit your Blender file, or if you want, you can actually export it as a video as well. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, as always, make sure to give me a quick message or reach out to any of your teachers. We're always happy to help. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.